And now it is my great pleasure to introduce a past chair of the Churchill Society, Mr. Robert O'Brien, to propose a toast to Sir Winston Churchill.
Thank you very much, Alan. Mark Twain once observed, "History does not repeat itself, but it often rhymes." Well, if that is correct, then this evening is a night of poetry, with every line in perfect symmetry and perfect rhyme, and where history intersects with the present. In 2015, our award recipient was invited by the Duke of Marlborough to deliver the memorial lecture at Blenheim Palace, Sir Winston Churchill's birthplace, on the 50th anniversary of Sir Winston's death. He died on January 24th, 1965. On that actual anniversary, while our award recipient was at Blenheim Palace, our society recreated the precise order of the funeral service with music and pomp and circumstance at Trinity College Chapel to commemorate the 50th anniversary of his passing with special guests of honor. That day, in and of itself, is rather curious, because in terms of history repeating itself or rhyming, Churchill had predicted that he would die on that very day. And so 70 years to the day of his father's death, Churchill passed away almost to the same hour. Churchill had once said he was prepared to meet his maker, but he wasn't sure if his maker was prepared to meet him. Later that same year, in June 2015, the International Churchill Society held a 3-day conference at Blenheim Palace in Woodstock to commemorate the 70th anniversary of the end of World War II, which, where a case might be made that World War II was history repeating itself after World War I, and Churchill was involved in both wars, in politics and in state. In June 2015, at the end of that wonderful conference, there was a superb concert at the Great Hall of Blenheim Palace. And who was there but our award recipient, Brian Mulroney? The rhyming continues. This last year, August 14th, was the 80th anniversary of the Atlantic Charter, when President Roosevelt and Churchill met for the first time at Placentia Bay in Newfoundland. We had a virtual event, a play produced by Professor Peter Russell, and Aaron O'Toole, a member of our society and past board member, participated in that event. The Atlantic Charter, 80 years ago, was the first summit of its kind between President and Prime Minister, and set out the important principles defining the post-war world and the United Nations. Meanwhile, our award recipient understood only too well the Churchillian importance of maintaining close personal relations with the President of the United States, and in his case, during the terms of President Ronald Reagan and President George Bush. And what came out of that were the Environmental Accord and Free Trade Agreement. And in terms of history repeating itself, our award recipient clearly understood the meaning and lessons of history and the importance of making history rhyme. And free trade was a principle for which our award recipient led our nation. And Churchill himself, earlier in the century, well, he switched parties earlier because he believed in the principles of free trade and the removal of trade barriers. Lastly, our society now in its 38th year has recognized Churchill's dedication to parliamentary democracy after a 64-year parliamentary career for Churchill. And our society has been encouraging education and participation in our political process. But to have one of our former board members, a past dinner chair, jump into the political arena from his position on the board of the Churchill Society and then assume the leadership of a party, and to have him here participating in this evening's event, well, that's the ultimate honor to the legacy of Sir Winston Churchill in terms of dedication to parliamentary democracy. So, Winston Churchill is alive and well, and he just keeps rhyming along. And so I would ask you to please stand, raise your glasses in a toast to the life, legacy, and principles of Sir Winston Churchill, and a happy 147th birthday to the great man, to Sir Winston. And now I introduce you to our chairman who has guided us through this ordeal of COVID for the past 2 years, and it's just wonderful to see him live. Cameron McKay.
Oh, thank you, Robert. You know, Robert just mentioned to me that Churchill directed his ministers to write very pithy memos, and he said, Cameron, that it's slothful not to compress your thoughts. And he didn't say anything further. So I'm inferring that I'm to compress my thoughts and be brief tonight, and I will be, but I do want to give some special thanks that are owed. And I want to, before I introduce the next speaker, just give me a moment to pay them, because they're important. And the first thanks goes to tonight's dinner committee, and in particular, the dinner chair, Alan Williams. You know, Alan has done yeoman's work for the past 8 months. This dinner and planning it is a full-time job. There are lots of moving parts, and he's done it with great patience, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate the work of the entire dinner committee, who include, among others, Susan Mackle, the past Society board chair, John Parker, David Piper, who's our treasurer, Dan Revington, Bob Richardson, and Molly Haw. Wilson, thank you all. We appreciate all of the work you've done. And if you get a chance to glance at the second page of the dinner program, the one with that handsome guy featured, you're going to see some of the activities that the Society has accomplished and done over the past year. And we're indebted to the many partners that helped us deliver these events, including extraordinary people like the Honorable Michael Chong, who's with us tonight. He's been a long-standing supporter, and we appreciate all the help that he's given us. You'll also see in that program, and Robert just mentioned this, the 80th anniversary of the signing of the Atlantic Charter, which occurred off the coast of Newfoundland and Labrador. And the renowned political science, and by the way, he's going to hate me for doing this, Peter Russell, past chair of the Society, along with his small but mighty committee, produced a video from a play called Mysterious Visitors that highlights the local impact of the historic meeting of Churchill and Roosevelt that resulted in the Atlantic Charter. And it's Peter's tenacity and his financial backing and his resolve that made the video production of Mysterious Visitors possible. And so our hats are off to you, Peter. Thank you. I also want to thank the large-spirited support received from the business community, and in particular the generous table sponsors, without whom this night would not be possible. So with that, Brian Tobin and BMO, you know, I emailed Brian a few months ago, and he was back to me within 15 minutes and said how delighted he would be to attend and honor his friend Brian Mulroney. So we thank you, Brian. Much appreciated. Adrian Montgomery from Enthusiast Gaming, longtime friend. Thank you, Adrian. James Villeneuve from Faskin. Appreciate it. Ian Johnstone of Johnstone Cowling. Jillian Smith, who's with National Public Relations. She's a board member. You're going to be hearing from her. Thank you, Jillian and National. Mr. Mulroney, your billings must be very good at Norton Rose because they bought 2 tables tonight. And I thank you, Waleed Solomon, for this. We appreciate it. Tenio Evangelista, who has supported us for the last 5 years, and tonight we honored him by not actually seating him at his table. He's a nomad. I don't know where you are, Tenio, but thanks for your support tonight and for the last 5 years. We really appreciate it. Ali Salam from Sun Life Financial, James Dodds from TD, thank you. And last but certainly not least, Scott Munnock, who's a dear friend. He not only has TSA supported us by buying a table, he's helped us refine some of the final logistics of tonight. He's a pro-advance man, and we appreciate your help. Thank you, Scott, as always. And of course, we thank the Right Honorable Brian Mulroney, Mrs. Mulroney, Mila, and their children. I'm looking at table 7 over there, and their spouses for being here tonight and making this dinner so extraordinary. We're honored by your attendance and grateful the sacrifices that you as a family have made. You've loaned your dad and your husband to us, and we appreciate it. Now, I have the privilege of introducing a man who is well known to this podium, the Honorable Aaron O'Toole. We know him, he's a multi-dimensional guy. We know him as a friend and supporter of the Society. As Robert mentioned, he was a board member from 2005 until 2012 when he was elected. He's also somewhat of a pugilist, I have to say. He served as the dinner chair for 4 years. Now, he actually takes exception. He says it was 6, but the record says 4. And by my calculations, that's 3 more years than is humanly possible. Having done this, it is a tough job, but thank you for that. He's a man of action who's proven he's a man of action who has proven through his military service that he'd give his life to our country. As a helicopter navigator, he participated in search and rescue missions off Canada's coasts and rose to the rank of captain. He's a politician who's been elected to Parliament 3 times in his riding of Durham and was elected leader of the official opposition in 2020. And he's a family man. You know, many of the people in this room will know all too well that public service is a family affair, and that one of the penalties of that service is that partners and the children of people who seek and attain public office live in the white glare of publicity. So tonight we have Rebecca O'Toole has joined us, and Rebecca, thank you for being here and for your work, and thanks to your 2 children, Molly and Jack. We extend our thanks to them. So I've tried to compress my thoughts, and with that, ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome and give a warm welcome to the Honorable Aaron O'Toole.
Thank you very much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Robert O'Brien, my friend, who was chair when I was on the board, thank you for those gracious words. Cameron, thank you for a lovely introduction. Let's wait for the Colonel to get repositioned here. A great Canadian, the Honorable Hal Jackman. So, Cameron, your introduction was very appropriate and appreciated. Give my life to this country. Have you been to my caucus meetings lately, Cameron? But listen, friends, it's an honor for me to be here tonight to follow such distinguished Canadians such as the Honorable Hugh Segal, Sheila Copps, Ed Broadbent, Janice Gross-Stein. I had the honor of chairing one of the dinners celebrating the life of the Honorable Ed Broadbent, and we had a wonderful video tribute from our guest here tonight to show that you can make friends across the aisle. It's also wonderful for me to be joined by some of my friends, led by the Deputy Leader of the Conservative Party of Canada, the Honourable Candice Bergen, who is here tonight. The Honourable Michael Chong, a long-serving parliamentarian, and our colleagues from Ottawa who came out tonight, Rachel Thomas, Eric Duncan, Scott Aitchison. And what is lovely about this dinner, it is a generational gathering of tribute. The Honourable Pauline Browse, a good friend, the Honourable Doug Lewis, who still sends me advice, and great colleagues that we had the good fortune to work with, the Honourable Peter MacKay, the Honourable Lisa Raitt, the Honourable Tony Clement, and my good friend, Leona Alislev, former MP and future MP. And I'd like to recognize tonight the Honourable Anita Anand, the Minister of National Defence. As a veteran myself, it's a portfolio that's very important, and in the spirit of nonpartisanship, in a way that Sir Winston would be proud, I wish you the very best cleaning up the mess of your predecessor. So friends, it's also great to see our great PC colleagues and friends at Queen's Park, tonight especially the Honourable Caroline Mulroney. So this is a distinct honor for me for 2 reasons tonight, friends. First, I'm honored to speak at the Churchill dinner, celebrating our parliamentary democracy and the people that serve it. an event that honors public service. And if you've checked out Twitter lately, we need more honorable and respectful dialogue about public service. A dinner that, as Robert said, I had the privilege of co-chairing and organizing for many years as a lawyer in Toronto before my election to Parliament. And we honored men and women from all sides of the House because service to this great country is important regardless of your political stripe or color. The second reason that this is an honor for me tonight is to return to this dinner I respect so much, to celebrate the public service and contributions to Canada by a man that I have great respect for and come to admire more and more each day, Canada's 18th Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Brian Mulroney. Now, I feel a sense of connection with Brian because of the things we share. Il était né au Québec. He was born in Quebec to a family of modest means. I was too. Brian is proud of his Irish-Canadian roots, and he has a gift for the gab. I do too. Brian, and he will say this, and I agree, married up. He had a partnership with the incredible Mila, who became his partner, advisor, and his inspiration. Thank you for doing that. And to my amazing partner, Rebecca, who is my rock throughout my public life, Brian, I married up too. Brian became a lawyer and then a politician. I did too. He ran for the Tory leadership the first time and lost. I did too. He ran the second time, learning the lessons from the first, and he won. I did too. In his first election as leader of the Conservatives, Brian won 50% of the national vote and the largest majority government in Canadian history. And I did not. Yet. As the minister knows, we did not win the $600 million pandemic election, but as a party, we ran hard. We had great policy and a belief in this great country, and I had an amazing team, some of whom are here tonight with me, and we made progress. Progress builds for the future. Progress is a waypoint on any journey you have in life. And in progress, you find the seeds of victory and the determination to keep buggering on, as Sir Winston Churchill might say. In fact, Sir Winston Churchill himself once said, quote, "Every day you may make progress. Every step may be fruitful. Yet there will stretch out before you an ever-lengthening, ever-ascending, ever-improving path. You know you will never get to the end of the journey, but this, so far from discouraging, only adds to the joy and glory of the climb." End quote. And in the glory of my climb, I find inspiration from the legacy and tremendous leadership of the Right Honourable Brian Mulroney. Under his leadership, Canada climbed to new levels of prosperity, achievement, and recognition. He secured the largest increase in prosperity in Canadian history with his landmark free trade agreement with the United States. He secured an end to environmental degradation of our lakes and water tables with his landmark acid rain treaty. And the discussion he started has served as the touchstone for the modern international pursuit towards finding the right balance between the environment and the economy. And most importantly, for the world. Brian Mulroney helped secure the freedom of Nelson Mandela and, by extension, millions of South Africans through his steadfast and bold international leadership fighting against apartheid. When Brian Mulroney was Canada's Prime Minister, the world took notice. World leaders like Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher sought out his advice. Our allies sought out Canada's participation, countries around the world look to Canada as an example, a model worthy of emulation. Canada mattered when Brian Mulroney was Prime Minister, and as far as I can remember, I never once saw a news story about Brian Mulroney's socks. We only dream that we could have this degree of relevance now. The world needs a principled, compassionate, and serious Canada now more than ever. And that is why I draw inspiration from his service. During Brian's final address as Prime Minister, he described his time in office in these simple terms, quote, "I always tried to do what I thought would be right for Canada in the long term, not what would be politically popular in the short term." That, my friends, should be the goal of anyone in public life from any political stripe. Leave the country better off than how you found it. Do what is right for our people, our communities, and our future. Make steady progress on an ever-improving path for the country we all love. And to be, in the words of Sir Robert Borden, worthy heirs of the past and trustees for the future. Brian Mulroney did that perhaps better than any Canadian Prime Minister since the Second World War. So celebrating our country, celebrating our parliamentary democracy, ladies and gentlemen, let's show our appreciation to Canada's 18th Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Brian Mulroney.